couple of things about the fitness industry. I'm Bill. I come from Bootcamp Spain. I've owned Bootcamp Spain for the last 12 years. Been in the game for an awful long time, more than I can care to think. And over the course of the time, over and over again, we get people coming in and they're on this diet, they're on that diet, they're following this influencer, they're following that influencer. And over a period of time, you just get sick to death of hearing it, because you see what works and you see what doesn't. And it really doesn't matter what you try and put into people's heads. They just don't listen. They just don't. And then with the advent of Google and YouTube, etc., which are great pieces of information, of course they are. But some people, they just take everything on board and they won't let it go. And we've had guys here. I had a guy working for me. He'd start off fasting Monday, Tuesday. By Wednesday he was hungry, so he'd go on the carnivore diet. You know, by Thursday, Friday, it was just ridiculous. It was mental. And these guys that come in, I know my body. You know, bearing in mind we're a weight loss camp, okay? I know my body. You know, they're huge. You know, of course you know your body. That's why you've come to boot camp. You know, it doesn't have to be this one. I mean, I'm sure every other boot camp must have exactly the same scenario going on. But equally, they must get sick to death of hearing it. They must do. Listen, there's a couple of things, just basic lies that I would drum into everyone's head, and just, you know, you've got to go through the fluff. I mean, you know, some of the influencers, they're pretty good. You know, they are. You know, there's a couple, I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple that have come out, they're pretty good. Others they're just selling for views. You know, they're selling for likes, they're selling for whatever it is that they get.